Welcome to Mean Green Mania. I'm your host, Jazra Williams. I'm joined with Connor Hibbett and Wyatt Schott. Today we are outside of Gate B of the Super Pit, and we're going to be discussing all things college basketball. But first, we're going to start with UNT versus UAB. Guys, what happened?
Disappointing performance on the road for sure. The offense couldn't get going, but we really struggled out of the gates. We've seen this a couple times the last couple of years where we have a really good performance at home, and then we kind of start slow on the road. We catch up maybe towards the end, but it's too little too late. Defense played pretty well, as it normally does. We've got one of the top defenses in the country, but really it's just all about how our offense clicks. And, of course, we've struggled with injuries this year, which really hasn't helped. But, yeah, we just started too slow, and that's what really hurt us in the game.
Yeah, we really struggle. And we talk about how hard it is to win on the road in college basketball, and this is another example of that. We struggled at the gate. We shot 4 from 18 from 3. And we don't have a real shot creator on this team outside of Jason Edwards. So if Jason Edwards isn't creating offense, then the offense isn't clicking. And when you see that, you would like to see more team basketball and getting easy looks at the basket. You shoot 4 for 18 from 3, so you think maybe you go inside more, but you only have 9 assisted baskets. It's just not good enough overall to get the win.
I think you made a great point, Connor, talking about, winning, starting off strong, because they played a great game towards the end. But they really dug themselves into a hole, so I think that was a big issue as far as that game. We have to start off stronger so we don't have to come out second half, okay, time to play makeup, and they actually did well. So I think that it was really, really frustrating for that team to have to go through that. And like you said, we are missing some scores. Jason Edwards really needs help. He needs help out there on the court. And whenever we have CJ and Ruben to come back, I think that should very help them a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And with this team, it's bad for them to get down because they're one of the slowest paced teams in all of college basketball.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So getting down early is not advantageous for them because then they have to speed up.
We're not a team to make a comeback.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not built for that.
They're a team to get an early lead and sustain it.
Exactly. It's kind of like Virginia basketball 2.0.
Yeah, it really is.
Or actually, hang on, no, we're the 1.0. Virginia is the 2.0.
I was about
here.
to say, let's not do that.
Yeah. I would also like a rematch with Virginia. We played them a couple years ago here at the Super Pit. I want a rematch Virginia, and they're not playing very well.
I don't know if I want the rematch.
I want it right now. They're not playing very well right now. You have to score 50 points in the last 2 games.
I want it in 2 games when we have CJ and Ruben back, and we can be set on scoring. But honestly, I think that our concept and our movement of the ball is really, really good. But I feel like at UAB, like you said, it's really hard to play on the road. So I think that starting off weak like we did and then having to play that makeup game in the second half is not very advantageous, like you said, for us. I think that's very – we really have to know our team and how we play. And so because of the slow pace that we have, we need to focus on really getting in and taking care of our possessions, moving forward.
When you're playing on the road, you want to get the opposing crowd out of the game. So you want to get off to a really fast start.
Of course.
You can't get off to slow starts because it's going to make your life that much more difficult. And as you mentioned, Wyatt, we are not a team that's really built to make a comeback. We play at slower pace. We try to force teams to play our pace. When the opponents force us to play their pace and we don't start well shooting-wise and we're not playing efficient basketball with our pace, it's not a good sign for us in the long run.
Yeah.
Again, we started slow. We did play well towards the end.
Right.
I've really been impressed with our basketball the last 3 to 4 years. We play very well in the second half. We make really good adjustments. Women's team is very similar to this, by the way. We make really good adjustments here at UNT, so that's not the issue. It's really about setting the pace early, especially when you're on the road, taking the crowd out of the game. And we have to develop more players. Earlier this year, we talked about we didn't have any closers. We've got a closer now in Jason Edwards. Right now, it's Jason Edwards' world, and we are just simply living in it. But we got to get more players involved. Of course, hopefully we get healthier over the next couple of games before the conference tournament.
Yeah, so something that's really frustrating for this team is their lack of front court play. They have guys like Aaron Scott, but they haven't been able to produce there. But interior defense has been really bad. UAB shot 31 free throws. North Texas shot 10. We shot 80% from the line. That's great. But when UAB is shooting 26 for 31 from the line, you're not going to win many basketball games that way. The interior defense has been poor all year, and it was really showed against UAB.
And I think another interesting thing to point out is that we actually out-rebounded UAB. So that just goes to show, like, if you look at the stats a whole, you would think, okay, what really happened here? But it's one of those intangibles that's very, very important that a lot of people miss over is that start. That start is so important. Just like you said, taking the crowd out of the game is such a big factor because once your team goes on a run, obviously the crowd's going to be hyped up, they're going to be cheering, and that's very, very disencouraging for that other team that is there. So if they pick up this start, they would have won that game.
Yeah.
And it was a close game. The game, it was UNT was 62, and UAB ended up being at 71. So that loss puts us at 14-11, unfortunately. But still a great record. But I think that this game could have easily been won. Just that start. If it was a little bit different, I think that the score would have been a lot different.
That's been really the story of the season for us, has been the close losses.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you were to look at the close game metrics, close games in basketball are decided by 5 points or less.
Right.
We are currently 3-9 in that category this season. Now, the last 2 years, it's been totally different. We were just really clutch at those proper moments at the end of the game. But this year, it's not been the same. We had that incredible game against SMU and the incredible atmosphere here. We won in a close one. We had that last second shot against East Carolina on the road a month ago. But really this year, it's been the story of the close losses. In fact, if you were to pull up the metrics of the unluckiest teams in college basketball, we currently sit at 358. I should remind y'all that there are only 362 teams in the country in Division I college basketball. So, point here is that we are literally one of the most unfortunate teams in the country.
Wow.
Because we can't figure out a way to close these games.
Man,
Exactly.
I love Ken Pom and their luck metric. Isn't that awesome that we can see how lucky a team is?
Right. That actually might help y'all for March Madness if y'all are making your brackets.
Right. No, I think that you make a great point. The close of the game, the start of the game, these are things that a lot of people are very, very it seems to be something that's often passed over. They talk about, numbers, they talk about scoring, they talk about rebounding, and all of that, of course, is important. But like we said, that start and the close of the game really can determine how the game finishes off and what that score ends up being at the end. Because if you don't have somebody that can close, we do. You have Jason Edwards, and hopefully a couple more scorers will step up a little bit. Because looking at that UAB game, he needed help.
Yeah.
He needed help on all ends.
No other starter scored more than 10 points. No one else is in double digits. Only one player off the bench is in double digits.
Yes.
Jason Edwards has scored double-digit points in every single game this year except for 3.
Wow.
And 2 of those 3 were in the first few games of the season. So this guy's playing at an unreal level right now.
I believe he's averaging about 19 points, somewhere around there. So he's definitely, he's definitely doing a great job. But when we come back, are going to talk some national talk. We're going to talk about some top 25 upset teams. So stick with us.
The do's and don'ts of the Pole Rec Center. See that man over there? Please do not hog weights. Instead, do this. Another important part is having an attentive spotter. See, here is an example of a non-attentive spotter. Instead, do this. Now we head to the track, which should be pretty easy, it's important to pay attention to the way the track goes. Remember to wipe down the equipment after you're done using it. The towels are provided by the gym, so it's pretty easy to wipe down the equipment when you are done. Thank you for using the Pole Recreation Center.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
Não sou fácil.
This story is going to be awesome.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good.
Welcome back to Mean Green Mania. I'm your host, Jazra Williams, and today we're going to be talking about some national basketball talk. We have top 25 upset watches going into March, and we're going to talk about kind of our confidence with these games. So we're going to introduce the game, and then we're going to go across the line and talk about why we think this would happen, and we're going to see a little bit of there. So first, we're going to start off with number 2, Houston at 11, Baylor. Guys, what are y'all thinking?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10,
Right.
my confidence in the upset, I'm actually going to put this at a 7. When you look at the Big 12 this year, there's been a lot of upsets. And a lot of those upsets have been when the higher-ranked team plays on the road. And we got number 2 Houston at 11 Baylor here. Baylor is actually the favorite in terms of the line, but by ranking, it would look like an upset. So we'll go by the rankings, obviously, here. So I'm going to go with Baylor at a 7.
Okay.
Houston has really struggled offensively this year, and Baylor is one of the best offensive teams in the country. So if there's that 5, 6, 7 minute period where Houston's struggling offensively, that's where Baylor's going to catch him.
Right.
And obviously being at Baylor, being in Waco, I think that could be the difference if Houston gets off to a slow start. Right? We talked about this in the previous block with us. If you get off to a slow start on the road, it's going to be that much more difficult to make that comeback. And potentially, I think Baylor could catch Houston off guard if Houston were to have a slow start offensively.
Yeah, no,
So-
for this game, on a 1 to 10 scale, so 5 would be neutral, right? 5 would be like, I don't know. I'm going to put it at a 6 because I really don't know. I'll lean towards Baylor just because they're a really good team and it's at Baylor. Speaking of at Baylor, brand new stadium that they introduced this year, it is absolutely beautiful. Just like a state-of-the-art
Yeah.
stadium. It is awesome. They have a weird camera angle. It looks like you're watching the game from about 50,000 feet away. But it's a really cool stadium. And I got Baylor, slight lean to Baylor in this one. They're both really, really slow offenses, but they're both really, really efficient offenses. Baylor is top 10 in the entire country in three-point percentage, but they don't rely on the three. Only 38% of their shots are from three. Houston is so good on defense. It's really silly. They're going down as one of the best statistical defenses in really college basketball history.
Right.
Ever since Ken Palm and Advanced Metrics have been around, this is the best defense of the season ended today. But with that being said, their offense is very hit or miss. Sometimes they go hot, but sometimes they go ice cold, man. They don't have scorers that can go out there and get a bucket at any time. They're more of like they're more of a defense to offense kind of team. They love scoring in transition. But I'm going to lean Baylor on this one just because their offense is so much better, but that Houston defense is so good that I could see it going either way.
But that Houston offense is precisely why I'm leaning towards Baylor.
Yeah,
as well
no,
on this
I
one.
don't blame you.
I think I'm going to go with 5 if we're going on a neutral thing, because just like you said, it's hard to try and decide what team is going to win when it's a good offensive team against a good defensive team. I usually lean towards defense,
Right.
but we are at Baylor, so that makes the environment much different. Now, if we were at U of H, done
No,
deal.
right.
It would be Houston. It would be a wrap. But I think that having a good offensive team going against a really good defensive team is obviously going to be a good game, but Jamal Sheed, which I actually used to watch him play in high school. He went to Manor, and so repping A-Town. But I used to watch him play in high school. But he just came off of a really good game with Houston. So I think that going into this game and possibly even taking advantage and embracing like that rivalry environment, I think that could be good for their offense going into that. But I'm still on the fence, but I'm going to stick at a 5 for now. Next, we have number 8, Duke at Wake Forest. What are we thinking?
Red hot upset alert here in terms of the rankings again, because actually Wake Forest is favored in this game.
Yeah.
Give me Wake Forest. Okay, so I talked about the unlucky team metric. Wake Forest is actually one of the most unlucky teams in the country as well. This is a team that's much better than their record. They're currently on the bubble. They need a big win. They're playing at home against Duke. They almost beat Duke at Cameron Indoor earlier this season. Give me Wake Forest in terms of the ranking for the upset. I think they could actually win this game potentially decisively. Give me the Demon Deacons.
Yeah, no, I agree with this one. I got this one at a 7 for the upset scale. I think that Wake Forest is a super solid team, and they're in need of a big win to get into the tournament, like you mentioned. This is just a super solid team. They're top 30 in KenPom for offense and defense. But the thing that's concerning is that they're 1-5 in quad 1 games. This will be a quad 1 game, even though it's at home, because it'll flip-flop. If this game was on the road, then it'd be a definitive quad 1 game. But since it's at home, it's a little less so. But
Right.
Duke is still a really good team. Jared McCain can really be an X factor for Duke. He's a great shooter. So if he can step up along with Kyle Filipowski, of course, then Duke can easily win this game. But Wake Forest is super solid. They have great size. Actually, they match up well with Duke. And I think the Demon Deacons can definitely pull off this upset. Hunter Salas is their leading scorer, 18 points per game. He's super solid. But give me Wake Forest for the upset.
And I said red hot upset alert. I don't think I ever stated the number that I had. I'll put this at an 8, so I'm pretty confident.
Okay. I'm going to have to agree with Wyatt. I'm sitting at a 7 just because I think that Wake Forest and Duke match up very well. Obviously, Flip, he's really, really good for Duke, and like you mentioned, Jared McCain. But I feel like there's a lot of teams that don't really know how to handle Flip truly, because you see him play, and he is a great scorer. He has great IQ, he's a really good floor general. And so I think that having the big that Wake Forest does, it puts a little bit of the playing ground. It evens up the playing ground. And then, honestly, Duke's team has a couple young players. So I think that depending on Jared McCain, if he shows up or not, that could be a big factor. But also, he is young. So big pressure games like that can lead to upsets in that sense. So I'm going to say give me Wake Forest on this. Moving on, we have 25 BYU and at Kansas State. What are we thinking?
So I'm going to go with a 9 here. I'm
Okay.
actually really confident in Kansas State pulling the upset here.
Okay.
Kansas State is much better than their record as well. They've lost a ton of close games. I believe they've lost 7 of their last 8 games. This is a team that's also better than their record, and they currently have one of our former players here from UNT, and Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, I can just see him having a really good game here. I think this is the game where he scores, let's say, 15, 20 points, makes a couple late buckets in the clutch moment. He always performs so well in the clutch. And I can see Kansas State winning at home, getting back to getting another win here on the win column, getting back on track to potentially getting an at-large bid for the tournament, because Big 12 is amazing this year, so they're going to get a lot of at-large bids. So K-State's currently not on the bubble, but this would be one of those quality wins late in the season that would obviously do no harm for their resume. So I think this is just a really good time for Kansas State to bounce back here.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of BYU. They're one of the most interesting teams to study in college basketball. This team is number 1 in three-point rating. They shoot the most threes and make the most threes. They shoot more threes than two-point field goals and free throws combined. They shoot the ball.
Love them.
That's an insane statistic.
Yeah, the numbers do love them. They're a veteran team, as BYU always is. They have a guy named Ali Khalifa. He's the starting center for them, and he is what makes this team go. They run a lot of zoom action, which is a pin-down screen into a dribble handoff, and he facilitates it. He's a great passing big. He can shoot the three well. He's shooting about 33% right now. He's a game changer for them, but like you mentioned, this is a must-win for Kansas State, and it's at Kansas State. And for that reason, I can see this upset happening. I have it at a 5 right now because I'm pretty neutral. I think BYU's the better team, but I think K-State has this game in a really good spot. Tyler Perry's a stud. Arthur Kaluma is really good for Kansas State, and they need this one bad, so having it at home is probably the most advantageous thing for them.
If it's a Big 12 matchup, you're seeing a common theme here for me. I'm going to be picking the home team.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am also going to go with Kansas. I'm going to put my meter at a 7 just because, BYU is a really good team, but I think that the environment that they're going to have and being at home is going to be very, very advantageous for them. I think, like you said, both of y'all said, Tyler Perry, he's a great player, so I think he will pull through for Kansas State and lead them to an upset, possibly. So next we have number 10, North Carolina at Virginia. I'm just going to say 2. It's going to be North Carolina. Not much to say there.
Yeah, my meter's at a 3, only 1 spot higher than you just because it's at Virginia. But Virginia is not playing very well right now at all. They have yet to score 50 points in the last 2 games. Defensively, we know the Cavaliers are going to show up. It's the question is on the offense. And they can't have questions on the offense if you're playing against the Tar Heels. The numbers love North Carolina despite them being ranked 10th. There's a lot of people who think this should be a 1 seed. We'll see if they're a 1 or 2 seed for the tournament. This is a team that I think can make a run to March Madness. They seem like a team that's built for the tournament. They seem well-rounded. North Carolina hasn't been playing amazing here as of late. I think this is the spot this season where North Carolina starts to play like an elite team again. And again, with Virginia kind of trending down, especially offensively, they've been playing pretty porous on that side of the basketball. I just don't see the upset here, so I'm going to go with a 3 here. I think North Carolina's going to win this game.
I agree. I have this as a 3 as well. We both agree on that. And it's because Virginia is such a good defensive team that they give themselves a chance to win every single game, despite how anemic that offense really is. Elliot Cadeau is the point guard for North Carolina. They also have R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot back for, I think, their 17th year each. They've been there for what feels like forever. They were on that national championship team, the one that was the runner-up to Kansas a couple years ago. And, yeah, Virginia's 67th in Ken Palm right now, despite having a 20-7 record. That's below Kansas State and Ken Palm, who has a 15-11 record.
Big 12.
So that just goes to show you what Ken Palm thinks about Virginia and what they think about Kansas State. I just don't see the upset happening here. I don't think Virginia's a very good team. So yeah, give me North Carolina. I lean them heavy.
Next, we have 22nd Colorado State at UNLV. I'm going to go with a 2 just because I think that the spot that they're at, UNLV, is a big factor. I feel like, obviously, environment for any sport is going to be a big factor, but UNLV is such a great place to play at.
Yeah.
To be the home team, I think that there's not going to be an upset today.
I think, we've talked about Houston earlier in this block. I think UNLV and Houston have something in common. It's not anything to do with today. It's to do with the history of college basketball. I think Houston and UNLV have 2 of the best teams to have never won a national championship in college basketball.
That's true.
With the early 90s, UNLV running Rebels during that era, and then, of course, Houston in the early 80s with Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah.
I'm going to go UNLV, and I've got this at a 7 on the boldness scale, or on the confidence scale, if you will. The Mountain West is amazing this year. This is actually one of the best mid-major conferences that I have seen in quite some time at the college basketball level. I'm going to go with the home team here with UNLV. I think they're going to pull off the upset. You got Colorado State coming off a tough stretch, especially with that loss at New Mexico, and I'll have a little bit more on New Mexico here later. But give me UNLV at the home team. The Mountain West is pure chaos this year, and so kind of like the Big 12. I'm going to go with the home team here.
Yeah, I got this one out of 5. I think UNLV can pull off the upset. I really do see it. Colorado State is a really solid team, though. Top 40 in both offensive and defensive ratings. They're 3rd in assists per field goals made. They're one of the best passing teams in all of college basketball and easily the best passing team in the Mountain West. They do struggle on the road, though. They're 8-6 in conference play this year, and all 6 losses have been on the road. So going to UNLV, it's going to pose a challenge for them. And UNLV is just scorching hot. They've won 7 of their last 8. The advanced numbers don't really do them justice because they lost so much early. But they've really figured it out as of late. I can see UNLV going on a run and really winning this game. And I think that they could be a sneaky team in the Mountain West Conference Tournament.
Yeah, I hope the Mountain West gets at least 4 to 5 teams. And
it's possible.
It's
Absolutely.
very possible. They're projected to get at least 4. So.
Don't go anywhere. We will be back with more college basketball talk on Mean Green Mania.
I'm so tired. I feel ugly. I'm not okay. I didn't know UNT had counseling services. Maybe I should check it out. This looks like the place.
A 20-minute walk? I don't want to do this right now.
Don't worry, you can just use Transit.
Transit? What's that?
Transit is a mobile app that provides real-time tracking to connect buses, UNT shuttles, and even A trains. Simply download the app, then tap on the search bar and type where you want to go. In a matter of seconds, you get results for all available routes. And the best part of it is, it's completely free for UNT students.
What are you doing? I'm downloading it right now.
Download Transit today and remember, make life better without a car.
Willis Library, located at the University of North Texas. It has computers, printers, and the building is open 24/7. By going online, you can book up to an hour of reserved space and one of the many private study rooms. Many of them are equipped with whiteboards, a table, and a TV to hook up to your computer. Textbooks can be checked out for free with a student ID. They also have many of these in ebook forms. This is still a library, so always remember to be quiet and respectful of other surroundings, especially in certain places where talking is not allowed. For example, the 3rd and 4th floor are completely quiet. As you can see, Willis Library has many options for students, with it offering many media sources and staying open all the time.
Welcome back to Mean Green Mania. I'm your host, Jazzer Williams. Again, we have Connor Hibbett and Wyatt Schott. Today we're going to be talking about some March Madness tournament. We're going to talk about some of that. I know it's a little bit early, but who doesn't love talking about March Madness? We're going to be talking about automatic qualifiers to watch out for. Connor, would you like to start?
Yes, I will start with really basically any team in the Mountain West, but I'm going to talk about the New Mexico Lobos. The city of Albuquerque is so high on this team. They've been so excited to see what this team was going to do in the offseason. There was a lot of hype around this team. The city has not been this excited about New Mexico basketball maybe ever.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to see if this team gets the shot and at large, or if they get the automatic bid if they win the conference tournament. I would love to see this team in March Madness because I think this team could make a deep run.
I agree.
I think really, like I said about the Mountain West, they're really good. So whatever team is kind of set up well in their particular region, just depending on who gets the at-large bids, I would really watch out for them. I honestly think the Mountain West could have 2 teams in the Sweet 16, if not even more, like deeper run, Elite 8 potentially. But I really like this New Mexico team. They have some of the best guard play in the entire country. Really exciting team. They play well on offense, and the guards actually play some defense too. They've got some really good defenders on that team. I like this team from top to bottom. They also have a lot of experience. They've got a little bit of depth too. They haven't performed quite as well as I hoped they would so far in the regular season. They haven't lived up to their ceiling, so to speak. They haven't maxed out. But I think this team could really perform well if they get that opportunity.
You know, speaking of teams that have maxed out or that haven't maxed out, I bring up Colorado. And Colorado's really a team that's disappointed the entire season. Their ceiling is super high. The roster's really good. And I think if they go on a run in the Pac-12 tournament, win the Pac-12 championship, they could go deep into March. They just got to figure things out right now. Right now, they're kind of a fringe in team. They're either going to be first 4 out or first 4 in, playing on that early game as an 11 seed to, eventually play the 6, have the extra game, kind of like how Notre Dame did a couple years ago when they went on a run, I think, into the round of 32.
Beat Alabama, I think, in the first round.
Yeah, they did. And this is just a really solid team overall, a top 25 offense, a top 75 defense. They're top 10 from 3, and they're top 50 from 2. They just shoot the ball really well. They actually play, solid enough defense to win them some games, but the ball just hasn't rolled their way or bounced their way, really. They're one of the more unlucky teams, like you talked about with North Texas earlier. They just have stars all over the team as well. They have Cody Williams, a projected top 10 pick. He was the number 4 player in the country coming out of high school. He shocks the world and goes to Colorado, not known for their basketball, but he's been great for them. He's back healthy. He was out for a little bit. He's averaging around 18 points a game. He will probably be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft, so you want to maximize him as long as you got him, because those kind of guys don't come through Colorado often. Also, they have Eddie Lampkin, the TCU transfer, as their big guy.
Yeah,
just like a 6'11", almost 7 feet tall. He can just hold it down.
Too, though.
Yeah, and he's a big dude. Like, he's not skinny. He's a big dude, and he's got good feet. He's a really good rim protector. I like him around the basket.
Yep.
And then KJ Simpson's their best scorer. He's been around Colorado for a while now. He's a bolder guy, and he's been leading them in scoring, just a bucket getter. He's not the kind of guy like Cody Williams where he projects a draft well in the NBA, but he's a great college basketball player. He can score the ball.
When he was at TCU and they played Arizona in the round of 32 a couple years ago, he gave them fits. What about if he were to do that this year, playing against Arizona, but on Colorado's roster in the Pac-12 tournament? They make a deep run. If Colorado were to do that this year, it would kind of remind me of what Oregon did a few years ago. I think it was 5 years ago. They ended up beating Washington. They won the Pac-12 championship. They made a deep run in the NCAA tournament. They played Virginia, who ended up winning the national championship that year in the Elite 8, lost by only a couple of points. So, yeah, Colorado could be a sneaky good
Was that the
here.
Jordan Bell Oregon team? Or was that post-Jordan Bell?
No, I think that was a couple years after that. But, yeah. The Pac-12 usually has like a sneaky we saw it with Oregon State.
Oregon State just a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so the Pac-12 always has like that team that's trending well towards the end of the season. They make a deep run in their conference tournament, probably end up winning it, so they get that automatic bid because they probably otherwise wouldn't get the at-large bid. And then of course they make the deep run in the NCAA tournament. So I like that pick with Colorado. Yeah, and we've got another person that's a part of our town on the show that would really like that pick.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
big Colorado fan.
Yeah.
Shout out Jalen.
But watch out for the Mountain West. Like I said earlier, I think they could have 2 teams at least make it to the Sweet 16 and pull off a couple of upsets. And they've been a really good conference from top to bottom. They've got probably 6, 7 teams, I think, that could make a deep run.
Yeah, I agree.
I am going to go with Creighton. I feel like Creighton is a team that's kind of forgotten about but isn't at the same time. They're like kind of floating in the middle there. And I feel like people are like, oh yeah, they're good when they do big things.
Right.
And they are very, very capable of doing that. If you guys didn't see, they beat #1 UConn. I think it was an amazing game. They actually blew them out.
Yeah, they dominated that game.
They shot lights out against them. And they have scorers. And it's not like they have 1 scorer, 2 scorers. They have possibly 4 consistent scorers. They have 3 people on their team averaging over 15 points a game.
Wow.
We have, now forgive me on the names, I'm so terrible, but Baylor Shireman, he's averaging 18 points. We have Trey Alexander, he's averaging 17. We have Ryan Cockburner, that's also averaging 17. And then we have another scorer, Steven Astworth, is also around that 10-point range. So I think that these scores are definitely going to be a big problem for teams that don't have defenses. Now, a lot of the teams that are going to go to the tournament, they're going to have like a pretty solid defense. But when that defense doesn't show up that day, they are going to have problems with Creighton. So I think, and another thing, of course, that's important for March Madness is showing up at big moments. Creighton is so good with clutch games.
Yeah.
I think that March Madness is their bag. Like, they're going to do amazing. So I think they definitely could get AQ. They're about level with Marquette right now, if I'm correct. I think they can take Marquette, which that game is coming up. If it's not today, it's in the next couple of days. So we should see how well that plays out. And I think that they have a chance to, overtake UConn again. So I think that they could definitely sneak in and be an AQ as well.
The Big East is so top-heavy because
Yes,
you've got
they
UConn, Marquette, you've got Creighton. Butler's actually overachieved this year. They're not
right.
bad.
Butler's doing well as well.
They've lost some competitive games this year. But yeah, the Big East, it's kind of like what it used to be. It's
Right.
really good, except with no Villanova at
Of
the
course,
top.
yeah.
Although those were the years when Villanova
Yes.
was playing for championships. I love those years, 2016 to 2018. Those were awesome
Good
years for college
basketball.
basketball. But what you're saying about Creighton, that's actually what they did last year too. They beat
Right.
Baylor in the second round of the tournament. It was considered an upset, but a lot of people had that upset because Baylor couldn't play defense and Creighton could.
Exactly.
Creighton can play really well, especially with the interior of the defense. We talked about UNT's defense and the interior not being amazing this year. Creighton's got a really good rim protector.
Yes.
Right.
And they can score offensively, as you mentioned. Yeah, the numbers are going to like Creighton just like they like BYU.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a trendy pick here.
Right. I'm surprised that a lot of people aren't for Creighton or thinking about Creighton just because they have a great perimeter, they have great defense on the inside, and their three-point shot, I think, is almost at 50%, or their field goal is almost at 50%. They're shooting very well from the three-point line. So I think this is a really, really good pick.
Yeah.
Efficient teams are typically the
Yes.
teams that make the deep runs because they're consistent. And when they're efficient, that means they're good on both sides of the basketball, and that's what you need. Complete.
Yes,
You need
yes.
the definition of complete is efficient. Those are like synonyms for each other
Right.
in
Yeah,
college
I
basketball.
agree. And I have another team here that I'm just going to throw in. Colorado is my team that I think can make a run, but here's another Pac-12 team Pac-12 team for now, and that is Washington State.
Okay.
Unfortunately for them, we don't know the future of Washington State.
And you're not reaching here with their height.
I know, because they are one of the tallest teams in college basketball.
Right.
The tallest starting 5 in all of college basketball is Washington State. They have won 11 of their last 12. They've been red hot, and I had picked this team before they upset Arizona, and then they go ahead and beat Arizona for the second time. They sweep them in the regular season. They're just a really, really solid team overall. Miles Rice is a great scorer. He's their best player for sure. And then Jalen Wells is also a great three-point shooter. He's shooting at 46% from the three-point line right now. Just absolutely unreal stuff from him this season. They're 13th in block percentage. That's one of the highest in college basketball. It's first in the Pac-12. They're top 25 defense, and they rely on a heavy. Of course, being that tall, you're going to have that in your favor. I really like Washington State to make a run in March, quite frankly.
So when you look at the Pac-12, there's Arizona, there's Washington State, potentially Colorado. What else? What other team is pretty decent? Maybe like Utah. UCLA is playing well recently.
Utah's a fringe bubble team right now. They could make an 11 seed. You could see it be one of those first 4 teams. UCLA is not up there where they were a couple years ago. USC disappointed greatly with Isaiah Collier and Bronny James coming in. You expected a big year out of them. You didn't get it.
The one thing that I do worry about with Pac-12 teams is, if you got a team that's playing really well down the stretch, that's obvious, you can see it. you think they'll probably win a couple games in the tournament potentially. But outside of that, you worry about those teams from the conferences that don't have a lot of depth, because you wonder if they're tournament prepared.
Exactly.
Because like the Big 12, they're playing really good teams week in, week out, day in, day out, but maybe not so much with the Pac-12. So I wonder about that conference.
I think I want to touch a little bit. So Jake, unfortunately, he's not able to be here, but he chose Seton Hall. Now that's, up there in the Big East with me. And I truly think that Creighton will be able to overtake them, because another thing, going back to the Creighton-Marquette thing I was talking about. So Creighton is actually on a 4-game winning streak right now. So I think that they would overtake Marquette. I think they do that. Again, they beat UConn before, and very well. Again, like you said, dominated them. So I think Seton Hall could sneak in, but it's very heavy on sneak. So sorry, Jake. But I think that Creighton is definitely going to take it for the Big East. Now, if we want to touch back on the Mountain West teams, what other teams do you believe could be up there in the tournament possibly?
Maybe San Diego State. San Diego State has yet to lose any games in quadrant 2, 3, and 4. So what does that mean? It means that they're consistent. They beat the teams who they should beat, and that's the kind of teams that you're looking for, right? Efficient, complete. They don't make the mistakes. They don't do the bad things. Like, they don't have the bad losses, and that's what you're looking for. And San Diego State is that. They just played for the national championship last year. Should we really be that surprised that San Diego State's performing and playing well consistently again? No, not really. But other teams, I mean, there's a lot of teams in the Mountain West. Colorado State could do something. Utah State has actually been really good this year. Nevada's been pretty good. UNLV's been better than their record. As
Boise
I mentioned,
State's
New
been
Mexico.
solid.
Boise
State
State's
has
been
been very good.
And again, with New Mexico's been, they probably have the highest, well, they and Colorado State probably have the 2 highest ceilings in the Mountain West this year. But the Mountain West, half the conference could do something.
I know.
Really.
Mountain West is doing very, very well.
Yeah, it's the best mid-major conference that I've seen. Maybe, I mean, I'm
In
only
a long
I'm only
time,
23 years old, so I'm going to say in my life.
Really?
But it's certainly one of the best.
You're 23?
Yeah, it's one of the best mid-major teams or conferences that I have seen ever since I've been watching college basketball.
Yeah, I think you make a great point with that mid-major team that's doing very, very well, or mid-major conference that's doing very, very well. A lot of people sleep on Mountain West, but I think that, like you said, you've expanded on how all of the teams are doing very, very good. At least half of the conference is doing well.
They're sleeping on them because the games are played so late.
Exactly. Literally.
They really don't have a lot of eyeballs on them. Because Mountain West tips off at like 9 p.m. Our time. So
Yeah.
And East Coast, it tips off at
They're not
10
seeing
or
the games.
10:30.
Yeah, I'll keep y'all updated with the Mountain West.
Yeah, right. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be talking about today's game, UNT versus UTSA. We'll be right back with you guys.
What does Talons do?
So I'm the Vice President of External Relations for Talons. That means that I basically oversee all the external committees. Our external committees entail our Model A, it's a Mean Green machine. So they bring it to football games especially, so every game it's kind of there, every home game. The Model A is like a symbol of UNC pride, and it's a big tradition that we are so lucky to uphold and maintain. When people look at it, they see it, and they're like, oh, that's the Mean Green machine. There must be a game today or something to ramp up school spirit for basketball, softball, volleyball, any of those things. We have amazing teams, so we just want to show school spirit for them. Bonfire Committee, which is in charge of putting together the bonfire every year for homecoming. It's kind of just a whole semester-long process up until Build Week that we have to put together and oversee and make sure safety regulations are followed and risk management is taken care of. Cannon Crew, which oversees and takes care of the cannon. They fire it at games, they take it to special occasions.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Hasbell and I'm joining you here today in the Union Parking Garage. Today we're going to be going over how to drive safely in the parking garage. Let's go see. Oh my god, this girl just got hit by a car. Let's go see what happened. Ma'am, are you okay? Did you see that lady hit me with a car? Yeah, we did. I got it all on video. Oh my god. Let's go over here and talk about how we can prevent that. Yeah, not the hospital. Well, right now we're going to ask you a couple questions on how we can drive safely in the parking lot. What are ways that we can be aware of our surroundings? Oh, we can look both ways. Jenna, also, how about putting the distractions away?
Yes, just like our phones, turning our music down, and also not focusing on our passengers.
Where can you get information on how to get a parking pass?
Transportation.unt.edu.
If you park in a garage, make sure you pay on the app or look for further instructions on how you should pay.
And remember, no pass, no park. Let's all try to keep our Mean Green community safe.
Remember, we're all in this together.
Drive safe.
Welcome back to Mean Green Mania. I am your host, Jazzer Williams, and I am joined by Connor Hibbett, Wyatt Schott, and we have a special guest, Hank Dickinson. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Appreciate you all having me out here on a gorgeous day for a tailgate.
Yes, sir, it definitely is.
Today we're going to be talking about today's matchup, UNT versus UTSA. Now, we definitely have a couple things to say. I know the record doesn't look, it seems like it could be a blowout game, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper into UTSA basketball. Connor?
Well, they're currently, they only have 2 wins in conference play, but they're much better than their record. They've had a lot of losses by single digits. They've kind of like been like us. We've had a lot of close losses this year. We're better than our record. We're playing against another team that's better than their record. So both of these teams have not exactly maxed out, if you will. If you were to simulate the season again, both us and UTSA would probably have better records. So these 2 teams are really, really competitive. So it's probably not going to be a score like you would anticipate with these kind of records just going into it. You kind of have to dig more into the numbers behind the scoreboard, so to speak. And Hank, I want to kind of get your thoughts on this game. How does UTSA match up against us today?
Well, I think 2 things about UTSA that are different than what their record would indicate. They're tops in the league in rebounding. They're better than 40 rebounds a game on a regular basis. So they're going to give themselves a lot of second shots on the offensive end. And they're excellent at shooting the 3 ball. They're averaging nearly 9 made threes a game. North Texas shoots the 3 really well percentage-wise. They shoot it really well in terms of every game volume. So, you know, if you're not careful, you could find yourself in a real dogfight with them. And that's, I mean, we've won 4 in a row against UTSA. But if you remember, last year was a close call. Yep. And they've been in a lot of close calls. I think this is kind of a game where it's a bit of a trap game. You know, you've had a whole week off to rest, which this team needed. You're going to get Reuben Jones back. You're going to get C.J. Nolan back, and everyone's going to say, okay, everything's going to be perfect now. I don't know. UTSA is a team you better be really concerned about, in my opinion.
And sometimes when you have players coming off of injuries, sometimes they don't exactly start, very well right off the bat. Sometimes they're a little rusty.
Can't assume them, both Reuben and CJ, to be ready for more than about 20 minutes of hard competition. Right. Not because they're not ready to play 20-plus minutes, but they haven't been playing real-time basketball. So there'll be a little bit of stamina, I think, that we'll have to keep an eye on today.
And is there a certain degree of also not wanting to make sure that they don't re-aggravate injuries too?
Yeah, Matt Danello, the trainer's done a wonderful job, but I'm sure that's the first thing he's thinking is, we don't want to rush these guys back. I think CJ probably was ready last week, but with an open week, the only bye week of the season, you just have to be patient and let him get back. 2 different injuries. A hamstring can be re-aggravated. Ruben's dealt with it a bunch in his career. And then for CJ, a groin. And I don't know if you remember when that happened, but it was a nasty injury. So he missed 5 games. He came back pretty quick when you consider how nasty it was.
I think you raise a great point about the stamina, because you can run as many sprints as you want, you can do as many workouts as you want. Being game ready condition-wise is completely different than just working out. But I do want to ask you, UTSA is one of the worst defensive teams in all of college basketball. You're 353rd in Ken Palm in adjusted defense. But North Texas is one of the slowest teams in college basketball. How do they take advantage of that poor UTSA defense?
Well, I think part of the slow nature of the Mean Green is the offensive end. They're going to look for a lot of paint touches. And that helps the defense. If you look at the Grant McCaslin to Ross Hodge era, yes, we play really good defense, but part of defense is not allowing the other team to have the ball. It's like running the football. It means the opposition doesn't have a chance to touch it.
Right.
And so the 2 complement one another. And I think, Ross Hodge wants this team to get the extra pass. And I think if you do that today and you find John Buggs open, that could be interesting. He's coming off an 0-for-6 game from downtown, but since coming back from his injury, he's really been on fire, and this is his first time to match up against his old teammates. I think John Buggs could be a big difference maker today in that offense, but late, not early.
And I want to get more of your thoughts about our offense specifically. Early in the season, we kind of struggled finding that closer to close things out for us. Obviously, in the last couple of years, we had a guy named Tyler Perry, who's now killing it in Manhattan, Kansas. But now Jason Edwards has kind of emerged as that guy over the last couple months of the season. He's only had 3 games this year where he didn't score in double figures. So tell me your thoughts about Edwards' kind of emergence in this offense.
I think the best thing about Edwards is not his ability to hit the quick trigger 3. That's what fans love to see, and it is exciting. But he finds a way in the second half to get to the free throw line, and he's an excellent free throw shooter. So he's a 3-level scorer. At one point this year, you thought of him only in terms of a deep shooter. more of his baskets come from 2-point range than 3. So he really has become a 3-level scorer and a smart player. He's able to bait people into fouls, much like Tyler did, and before him, much like Javion Hamlet did.
Yeah.
And he was a guy like Jordan Ivy Curry, who plays for UTSA. He began the season coming off the bench, bringing you great productivity off the bench. Well, with injuries, he seamlessly moved into the starter role, and he's just one 30-point game away from tying the school record. He's had 4 30-point games on the year, been averaging around 27 a game the last 5. So he's at the best part of his year right now.
I think you make a great point. I want to touch a little bit about today's game. Going into it, and UAB, we had a slow start with them, and then going into the second half, we played better than them, and we have to dig ourselves out of that hole. How important is it to start well against this UTSA team today?
Well, I think the quick start games have proven to be very good for North Texas. You can look at going on the road to Tulsa, a quick start, and then never took the foot off the gas, so you don't want to dig a hole. Certainly on the road it's harder. At home you sometimes can rally, but I think Coach Hodge was concerned with the little things in the loss to UAB. We did make a comeback, but there wasn't the kind of energy and just the synergy that this team is built on. And he got after him pretty good about being connected again. And I just came from the scouting report this morning, and this team is, I think, recommitted to when a man's down, not one guy comes to help him up, all 4 come to help him up. When someone takes a charge, the entire bench needs to get up and get into it. And some of that was lacking at UAB. I write that off as a team that was kind of tired, and really wanting Ruben back and really wanting CJ back and just almost out of gas. I think this is a real good launching point as we head into March. Today will set the tone. So quick start for sure. Quick start to both halves.
And there's also some positives to be taken away with. I mean, obviously you don't want to have any injuries over the course of a season, but that does develop the depth on the team. So do you think that could actually prove to be a positive thing for us come conference play?
I think it's the absolute silver lining, and we kept saying throughout all this, if we can remain competitive against really good competition without Ruben, without CJ, sometimes without Bugs, how much better is this team going to look and feel heading into a very pivotal tournament opportunity down in Fort Worth? If the Mean Green fans can rally and this team is at full strength, I think you'll be shocked at what we're capable of, because it is a step up. This Conference USA was a really good basketball league, underappreciated. This is an appreciated league, and North Texas has battled the top teams very well, beaten the teams it should beat. I think we're in good position with everybody back to make a nice run.
And we've had a lot of close losses this year. So how does that late game situations, what do you think that could turn out to be like for us and down the stretch? Do you think we could turn those kind of games around?
Yeah, I go back to one of the first frustrating late game losses. Aaron Scott had a chance to beat St. John's on a shot that we know he can and will take. I'd like to see him get that opportunity again. You've got Jason Edwards, who now is fearless in a late game clock situation. You got John Buggs. You've got finishers. And another guy that emerged, and the Mean Green have played really well since he was activated, is Rondell Walker. Yes. Rondell Walker doesn't have big numbers, but Rondell Walker is a really smart basketball player. And I think he's a guy that can keep you from having to die on a last-second shot. I think he makes plays in the last 4 minutes that are smart plays that keep you, where you're in a position to win without having to have heroics.
And I think when you look at the athleticism of those two, from Aaron Scott and then Dell, I mean, those two guys they got incredibly high ceilings for their athleticism.
Well, and we haven't talked about Robert Allen. Robert Allen has been unbelievable. The most rebounds by a reserve player in the nation. Today's his birthday, so maybe he's going to have a special day.
Happy birthday to Robert.
Robert has come off the bench. Mulai's done a great job, starter. He'll start his 30th today, but Robert coming off the bench is got to really worry opposing coaches, because all he does is create rebound area, and he eats up the offensive glass like no one I've ever seen. So the complementary players on this team are all experienced, and I feel really good about where we are right now, barring another setback injury-wise.
Thank you guys so much for watching Mean Green Mania. You heard us talk about all things college basketball and going into today's game at UNT at the Super Pit. So come out, you guys, and watch us. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, and we'll be back with you next week.